welcome to this meeting of Area Planning Subcommittee West. Before we start, I have to read the webcasting introduction. So I would like to remind everyone present that this hybrid meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and or training purposes. If any public speakers on Zoom, I don't think we've actually got any, do not wish to have their image captured, they should ensure that their video settings throughout the meeting is turned off and set to audio only. Please also be aware that if technical difficulties interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn the meeting. Members are also reminded to activate their microphones before speaking, switch them off when they're finished. And you've been here before, sir, so you know you have 3 minutes to state your case, and again, activate your microphone when you start and switch it off when you're finished. Thank you. Apologies for absence.
I've received apologies from Councillor Sartin and apologies for lateness from Councillor Pugsley.
Thank you. Declarations of interest, members? None? Thank you. Can we agree the minutes of the last meeting, which are on pages 9 to 12 of the meeting of the 7th of December as a true record? Thank you. Is there any other business?
None, Chairman.
Thank you. The Epping Forest District Council Planning Policy Briefing Note of October 2021 is for noting. Thank you. Site visits, or any site visits required? There's been no prior notification. Thank you. Right, so moving on to the planning application, we have EPF/1051/22, Barclays Bank PLC, well, the former Barclays Bank PLC, 6 Market Square, Waltham Abbey, EN9 1DN, for its third time, I believe. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. I should introduce my planning officer, James Rogers, and to the far right is Rebecca doing the webcast. To my left is my Vice Chairman, Dave Stocker, and to his left is from Democratic Services, Vivian Messenger. And I'm Stephen Heather. Thank you. Sorry, James.
Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, everybody. So yes, item 9 is EPF 105122, which members will be very familiar with. It's number 6 Market Square, the Barclays Bank in Waltham Abbey. The proposal is to extend the existing building at the first floor to provide a 3-bedroom flat, so over 2 floors. Applications before members tonight because it's been called in by Councillor Kane, and officers are recommending that plan permission is granted. So just a brief recap, applications on a prominent position on Market Square within the Waltham Abbey Town Conservation Area. Currently on the site is the Barclays Bank, or was on site. This image just shows elevations looking down to Sun Street and on Market Square. This elevation, just as a reminder, is to show very clearly where the proposed bin store will be located on Sun Street. Confirmation has now been given by the Waste Management Department that contractors do indeed serve Sun Street and Market Square, and the proposed refuse store designed in this proposal has the capacity to meet those requirements that are required by the Waste Department. Further details of that can actually be found on page 14 of the agenda tonight. So just to show the obscure glazing that's going to be provided to the secure bin store on Sun Street. And finally, just the elevation on Market Square as well. So in conclusion, officers are recommending that planning permission is granted, and I will just briefly hand over to Vivian from Democratic Services just to comment on the reason for the previous deferral. Thank you.
Yes, Gary Woodall did some research, and under the Local Authorities Functions and Responsibilities England Regulations 2000, functions not to be the responsibility of an authority's executive include power to determine an application for planning permission and duties relating to the making of determinations of planning applications. The setting of relevant planning conditions is as we have interpreted it, a duty relating to the making of determinations of planning applications, and therefore a portfolio holder in his role as the portfolio holder cannot be involved in that.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Yes, thank you. This is the third time this application comes here, and I have to say that I'm very disappointed because I think that the planning department is very inconsistent in their decision. And I say that because exactly opposite from where this is proposed, we had Harold Court. And Harold Court were actually, and it is like a little news thing, so it was ideal for refuse, and they refused it. The same officer, well, the planning department, refused it categorically, so they had to go through the back of the co-op to find an exit. And now we've got here an exit at the back, and it's because of which is easier for BIFA to go through. We have not seen, I know what they say that they will accommodate the refuse, but we have an alley, and they can actually change the plans so they can accommodate the bins at the back, at Abara, from Derby Drive, where BIFA collects anyway. And I'm very disappointed about the whole thing, and I do not believe that will be possible to be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chairman. This application, yeah, I can agree what you said. Yeah, they can make the bin storage there, but unfortunately, officers don't work with local councillors. If you did, you would know far more. The Market Square, I've been round. There is no one in the Market Square that puts their rubbish out the front. Where Barclays Bank is, if you get the picture up there, you'll see in Sun Street, where there used to be a money thing, it's a bit of a slope for a start. Market day is Tuesdays, bin day is Tuesdays. On Tuesdays, there's a market stall right along in Sun Street at the side of Barclays Bank doing makeup. And then next to that, there's a massive fruit and veg one. And then there's a clothing one. They're there every Tuesday. The BIFA do not come down there. They collect from Sun Street, from Derby Drive at the back and Quaker Lane at the back. They don't actually go down Sun Street. To come to the Market Square, on the opposite side completely, the BIFA lorry backs up Church Street, just to the edge of where the Welsh Harp is. They collect the rubbish from the back of the Welsh Harp, literally walking, 5 yards round to go under the alley. So with this application, what you're saying is that BIFA's going to walk on market day, the whole way across the Market Square, to pick up these bins. I don't even know how they're going to get them because the market stalls will be there. And there's only a distance of about 1 metre for people to walk round so they can go to the funeral parlour. And so I can't see how you and BIFA are saying, oh, yeah, we collect them, because they do not actually go in Sun Street, and they do not actually, apart from that corner, to go round under the Welsh Harp archway, go and collect rubbish from there. And I'd love to see how they're going to be taking these bins when they won't even take a bin if it's down the side of your house unless it's on the front drive. So I can't agree with it. I'm sorry. I just will not be voting for it.
Thank you. I'm sure the planning officer put me right if I'm wrong. The way I believe it, the alleyway at the back is actually a fire exit, and the proposal is that it remains commercial on the ground floor, so that would still be their means of escape out the back. So putting bin.
In Derby Drive, where the bins go right up to Derby Drive and collect all the rubbish.
No, I was just stating the purpose of the alleyway.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further? Any more for any more? Right, members, the officer's recommendation is to, in actual fact, that was the bit about the conditions. If we did want to additionally condition the conditions about the refuse, it is an option open to us, but it is already covered as such. So the officer's recommendation is to approve the application with conditions. A show of hands, all those in favour?
2,
All those against?
7,
Abstentions?
2,
Right then. So, are we reasons for our refusal? Councillor Kane. You was not, sorry, Sam, was not.
oh,
Don't believe we need to specify a specific reason, do we?
Yes, absolutely. We need a clear reason with policy conflict and harm that's been caused by the bin storage. I just want to caution members against this course of action, just because I think we're opening ourselves up to costs when it comes to an appeal, just because our colleagues in the race team have commented that they do collect the refuse and it is possible, and what they're delivering is in accordance with what is required. So I'll leave that thought with members, but just to reiterate that we do need a clear reason for refusal which states harm and identifies a policy conflict. Now, policy DM11 of the local plan does talk about refuse, but again, members, you need to come up with that conflict and the reason for refusal, so it can be put in the decision.
Is it possible to actually refer to the situation, to the position where the refuge is? Because is there anywhere to say that in the middle of the village, in the heart of the village, and by, you know, the market square and everything else, you will have a storage, a refuse storage to face a pedestrianised street, so there is no big lorries coming down the road. There isn't. It's not permitted, and it's not permitted. So, is there anything that we can do there?
I would just, I mean, that decision is with members. Policy DM11 does require safe and accessible access to on-site storage facilities for refuse purposes. But again, the reason for refusal is very much for members to come up with. Again, I would just caution against that course of action from my perspective.
Councillor Kane.
Okay. Well, I voted for to approve because of the assurances from the Waste Department. However, as my colleagues here have decided to refuse the application, I'm just thinking possibly under ST2, accessibility of development in terms of accessibility for waste disposal. Is that applicable?
Did you not come back on that?
Sorry, Councillor, remind me what policy?
ST2, accessibility of development.
That's more related to accessibility of new development proposals as a whole. Again, I reiterate that it is for members to decide the reason for refusal. Policy DM11 is what deals with refuse and collections, etc.
Thank you. Councillor
Okay.
Kane.
What about that we do not consider it safe to actually have the bin storage there?
Again, it's up to members to decide whether that's the course of action you want to take. I would just recommend that as I said before, it's not a course of action that I would recommend, but it's down to members to come up with that reason for refusal.
You really need to help us, because with the decision has been made, so we need to actually find a suitable refusal statement. Thank you.
Councillor Lee.
As there's an alleyway that goes to Derby Drive where the bin men do actually go and drive right down to the end, why can't the bins be actually in Derby Drive where there's loads and loads of other bins that are all the backs of Sun Street? Well, they're saying they collect from Sun Street. They don't actually collect in Sun Street. They collect Sun Street either from Derby Drive or from Quaker Lane. No bin lorries, apart from when we've had to have them come for all the rubbish that keeps being dumped by the police station, come down there at all. Because it's a walkway. So is there no way that through that alleyway, that instead of having the bin store there, that the bins can't be out the back in Derby Drive, where there's loads of bins?
That's the normal procedure.
And then we wouldn't have this, because I personally can't agree to it being there. And not only that, have you ever gone round any bin areas? Within a year, that would be stinking, and people would be walking past it in Sun Street to go to the funeral parlour or to go to the chemist. And it's shut inside. Can you imagine in the summer that it's shut up, all bins inside? Nobody looks after the bin areas properly. It's thrown on the floor and everything. It'd be disgusting. The fact is we won't be able to see it won't stop us smelling it when we walk past.
I did ask the officers of environmental services to go and have a look, because we need to be consistent. If we actually refuse, the same planning department refuses opposite, and they insist that they go to at the back, we actually don't want anything to be in the heart of a village. It will destroy, it will damage what we're trying to do and achieve in our village to make it nice and attractive to tourists. At the back, the Derby Drive is the right position to be, and there is an access. If there wasn't an access, then I would have said, fair enough. We have no other problems with the building, it's just the refuge, and we need to be consistent. If we say no to opposite, exactly opposite from Sun Street, then we can say no to this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, would the ownership of the land come into it? I mean, I assume that the bin store is in the building for convenience. But would ownership of the land in Derby Drive be a problem for them to store their bins there? And the second question, fire precautions, is it the bin store sprinklered? Because it's actually underneath the residential accommodation, is it?
I'm afraid I don't have that information, and it's not, strictly speaking, relevant to this application. What members need to consider is the application that's in front of you tonight. So the bin store is proposed where it's proposed, and I'm afraid there's nothing else I can add other than what I've said in terms of, so it is very much up to members now to come up with that reason for refusal.
Councillor Matthews.
Thank you. So the officer said something earlier about D11. Could you just repeat what that is for me, please? Thank you.
DM11 of the Emerging Local Plan requires that waste is suitably located so accessible, safe access to on-site storage facilities for both occupiers and collection operatives, including vehicles, etc. So that would be the policy that deals with this issue. So if members were minded, that would be a relevant policy to consider.
So in that case, I propose that we refuse it on the basis that it conflicts with DM11 and it isn't safe for them to access. It isn't safe for them to access, and the operatives of the waste collection service can't access it, and I think that's a valid reason.
There's a seconder for that? Right, those in favour of that?
Ten,
Those against?
0,
Any abstentions?
1.
Right, so the reason for a refusal is contrary to DM11 of the Emerging Local Plan. Thank you. I'll find the next one. There we are. Right. So agenda item 10 is planning application EPF/1620/22, Winston Farm, Hoe Lane, Nazing, Waltham Abbey, EN9 2RJ on pages 23 to 32 of the agenda, and Suki will be taking us through this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, I just set my screen up. Can everyone see my screen? Oh, sorry, I think I've just clicked out of it. Sorry, Chairman, can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 10 relates to planning application which seeks permission for the demolition of an existing bungalow and replacement with a new house. This slide shows the location plan with the application site outlined in red. The southern part of the site contains the bungalow. The site is located to the south of Hull Lane and to the west of the access road, Winston Farm. The surrounding area contains a variety of residential and commercial uses. The application is before members today as it was called in for determination by Councillor Bassett. The northern part of the site contains a stream running through it, but through a wooded area. This section of the site falls within the Nazin and South Roydon Conservation Area, and which has a blanket tree protection order on it, and there's also a veterans tree on the site. The site is also within flood zones 2 and 3 and the green belt. This slide shows a Google image of the site. Historically, the site was part of a larger site used as a dog kennel and cattery. The kennels then got redeveloped into houses, and the current bungalow is the only building to remain on the site. This slide shows the existing site plan. This slide shows the photos of the southern, eastern and northern elevations of the existing bungalow on the site. No formal objections have been received from either neighbours or the parish council. Their detailed comments are provided on page 27 of the agenda. This slide shows the northern and western elevations of the bungalow. The photos on the right shows the mutual boundary with the adjoining number 1 Woodlands Barns, and in the distance the position of 4 Woodlands Barns. This slide shows the existing elevations and plans of the bungalow. This slide shows the proposed site plan. As you can see, the replacement of the house is proposed to be located within a broadly similar location to the bungalow. The application also seeks to strengthen an old access through the site, which goes over the stream and wooded area and connects to Hull Lane. This slide shows the proposed front elevation plans and sections of the new dwelling. The house has a width of 13.5 metres and is 13.88 metres deep. It has a height of 12.12 metres. Materials are proposed to be confirmed at the discharge of conditions stage. The scale and appearance of the proposal is considered to have a neutral impact on the character and appearance of the surrounding area and is therefore considered acceptable. This slide shows the proposed side and rear elevations. The green line denotes the prior approval application which has been approved, and the pink line shows the refused scheme under reference EPF 1352 of 21. The reduction in height, the obscure glazing on the rear elevation, and the setback and an increased gap between the proposal and number 4 Woodlands Barns means that the proposal will not have an adverse impact on neighbouring amenity. 8 protected trees will have their crowns lifted to provide a 4-metre clearance over the driveway. The arboricultural method statement submitted with the application indicates that the reconstructed bridge will be built and using pier and lintel foundations. This type of foundation will ensure that there is minimal root disturbance to trees. The report also indicates that a retaining wall will be provided. However, none is shown on the plans. Members should, however, be aware that there there has been another application submitted under reference EPF 2628 of 22, which proposes the demolition of the existing bridge and the erection of a new access bridge. It includes the construction of a new prefabricated steel bridge with brick piers inset with railings. Determination of this application will also be made by members of this committee. Unfortunately, the response from the ecology team in Essex came after the pre-Christmas deadline for reports to be included within this agenda. So it should therefore be included in next month's agenda. This slide shows the view from whole the old access with the street. As you can see, it's currently made of wood and has no sidewalls. This slide shows the current location of the vehicular access along the eastern boundary. The use of the gate on the eastern boundary of the site is confirmed by plans approved under reference EPF 073414 for 4 houses on the wider site. The application proposals include the demolition of existing building, crown reductions to trees, and the demolition and replacement of the existing bridge. The bridge goes over a stream and the access cuts through a small block of woodland. The waterway could be being used by protected species, notably otter or water voles. The building to be demolished and the nearby trees have not been assessed for their bat roost potential, and so the likely impacts upon the European protected species have not been considered sufficiently. A preliminary ecological appraisal should have been submitted with the application to provide details of any survey results, mitigation and enhancement measures. These details are required prior to the determination, as any evidence of bat presence will trigger further surveys next season. Essex Place Services Ecology Team have advised that it would be unlawful for the council to recommend approval without the provision of a preliminary roost assessment to confirm the likelihood of bats being present and likely absence. The proposed demolition of the building and the reduction in the crown spread of trees may damage, destroy a bat breeding or resting place, as well as intentionally or recklessly disturb a bat while it's in the structure or place of shelter or protection. As a result, the preliminary roost assessment must be secured prior to determination to ensure that the council can manage any likely risk and ensure that we are not liable under the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulations and the Wildlife Countryside Act if bats are identified to be present and permission was granted. The requirement is also echoed within the guidance under paragraph 99 of the ODPM Circular 6 of 2005. This advises that the presence or otherwise of protected species and the extent to which they might be affected by the proposed development must be established before planning permission is granted. Therefore, if there is a reasonable likelihood of protected species being present and affected by the development, the survey should be completed and any necessary measures to protect the species should be in place before permission is granted. It's for these reasons that the proposal is contrary to the requirements of the Conservation of Habitats and Species Regulations and the Wildlife Countryside Act, policies NC3 and NC4 of the local plan, and policies DM1 of the submission version plan. Thank you, Chairman. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you. We have one public speaker on this application, and that's the applicant's agent, Mr. Padalino. If I remind you again, you have 3 minutes.
Before I start, can I make one point? The bridge application is a separate application, was refused and has been resubmitted. So we're just discussing the house. Good evening, members. Further to our client's instruction to design and build his dream home for his family, in March 2021, we have been on a lengthy journey to obtain planning permission on this site and faced significant delays over the last 22 months. I advised my client to submit a planning application as this would be quicker than a pre-application process. He is a local businessman and wanted to build a new dwelling for his family. The first designs were submitted to planning and we received a refusal, with refusals in our opinion which are flawed, such as development within the greenbelt, too much glazing, issues with solar gain, loss of bungalow, no tree survey. We were advised to submit a pre-application and enter into discussions, and a meeting took place via Zoom on the 17th of December 2021. Various discussions took place, but we never, to this date, received the pre-application reports. It was decided after waiting 2 months that we would resubmit our application after making significant changes. We also submitted a prior approval to extend the bungalow in order to remove the loss of bungalow argument. The redevelopment of Wisdom Farm did not cater for any new bungalows. Instead, the council approved 4 large executive houses adjacent to this site. Then to ask for a dilapidated and structurally unsound building to be retained is strange. Our client did not want to build a new house resembling a barn. If he wanted a barn-looking house, he would have bought a barn and converted it. He wanted something different. The resubmission was refused out of hand with no discussions. In view that we did not receive the planning officer's pre-application report at a cost to my client of £1,500, there would have been an opportunity to remedy this error by the planners by negotiating. The application was not listed in this report you have tonight. This application is the 3rd application on this site. The reasons for refusal again were listed: metropolitan greenbelt, loss of bungalow, design, height and size and massing. You will note on the 1st and 2nd refusal there has never been mention of any ecology issues or the need to provide a report to satisfy these concerns. The planners raised this issue very late in the application process and validated the application on 3 occasions without the need for a report. Our consultant confirmed that there are no bats in this locality, and this is why there was not the need to produce an expert report on all 3 applications. If you view the site and its proximity to an industrial estate to the side of the boundary, along with large executive houses to the rear and to the side of the site, this site is not in the metropolitan greenbelt or what is regarded as greenbelt. With all the approved recent developments, this is infill at best. There are various design styles in this location as described above, with the other styles across the road. We request that the committee this evening overturn the recommendation for refusal on the basis that there are no ecology issues on this site, and the proposal now complies with all the relevant policies. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take you first, Councillor Bassett, as you called it in.
Thank you. Yeah, I looked at this one and I must admit I was slightly amazed by what I read. It's a bungalow which was in the grounds of an old farm which used to have greyhounds, about 100 and odd greyhounds if my memory serves me. They were knocked down and built £4 million houses on the same area. This is the old guy that used to own the site. This was his old bungalow. It's very run down and very dilapidated and hadn't been lived in for years. So therefore it would be unsuitable to repair and try to get back into some sort of condition. So therefore, quite reasonably, he thought, let's just rebuild it. It's an existing building, let us rebuild it. And that's what he put in. He went through an application. They said it was a bit too tall, and he went through pre-app and got the advice and then put in a submission which they say, oh, well, that's okay. But now suddenly, after going through, this is the 3rd application, at the last minute, and they admitted that the application only came, or the comments from the ecological only come at the end after 3 planning applications, and then they're talking about bats. And if you do a bat survey, it's totally the wrong time of year because they're hibernating. So what are you supposed to do? Also, it's a house that's been there. There's no sign of any bats in that area. Yes, there might be some hiding in the trees on the bridge, but as he said, the bridge is not included in this application, even though we're talking about it. And if you look at the access bridge, it's an old wooden access bridge that's 100 years old, and to say it's starting to fall apart is an understatement. And the application is in to put that with a modern bridge through. Nothing spectacular, nothing enormously large to replace it. It is just a straightforward replacement. I've been through everything here. It's an existing dwelling. There are no objections from anyone on it. Even the people that live right next door, the parish council, nothing. And if you read through this, the how shall we say, the officers are saying, you know, it's okay, crown of the roof is acceptable, revised shown the windows on the south, the garage removed. You know, elsewhere it says the window distance, no objections there. there's so much saying no objections, and if they want to do a bat survey, then let's just commission, as I think someone said there, a preliminary survey or something similar like that can be done just to check if there's any sign of any bats in that bit. But I think that's outside of this application because it's the bridge, and that's where they're talking about their possibility of being that. But I just cannot see a reason why someone can't replace an existing rundown dwelling with one that is fit to modern standards, especially when there's 4 new ones to one side. There's 2 on the other side of the road that have just been built in the last year, and yet we've chosen that we don't like this one, we don't like it, we like the old building. I just cannot understand it at all.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Yes, this is a question to the officer. If somebody pays money and has a pre-application meeting, don't they need to have the report back? And why was not done?
Okay, so we had a meeting, they paid the fee for the meeting and not a response back. So that's why it was just a meeting and not a written response back. So I think the fee was...
I need a little bit of clearance on that, you know, just so I understand. So if I wanted to actually have a pre-application meeting and pay Zoom, Teams, whatever, or face-to-face, and pay £1,500 for it, don't I need to have a report or some kind of advice on ecological or whatever is needed? What do I actually get for my money?
It wasn't 1,500, I think it was 120 or 130 or something, the standard rate for an hour discussion.
Got Mr. Courtney, did you want to come in?
Yeah, hi, sorry, I wasn't necessarily going to come in. I was going to leave the officers to answer questions. But yeah, I mean, I'm just going to re-emphasise what Suki's just said. Obviously, with our pre-app processes, you usually pay for a written response, but then there is an option to pay for a meeting. In this instance, there was a meeting paid for, but no written response, and therefore that's what was undertaken here. I mean, I do feel this is moving slightly away from the application in front of us, looking at sort of associated pre-apps and previous history. The other thing I just wanted to come in and just clarify is there was some reference to the ecological assessments not previously being raised in any of the previous applications. I've just actually had a look at some of those previous applications. The last application, I believe, did have a preliminary ecological assessment submitted as part of that. The application for the 4 dwellings did have ecological input. We did get consultation responses from ecology in there. So it has been a factor going that is a material planning consideration in all of the applications on this site and around this area. So it isn't something that's just come up now. I just wanted to make members aware that it isn't something that's just suddenly appeared on the site after several applications. It is a key consideration that's been there throughout. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Councillor Matthews.
Thank you, Chairman. If the ecology aspect and the ecology report is the key sticking point here, and members have no other issues and are happy with the proposals, can we not condition for obviously refuse the recommendation, put forward a motion that we approve it, but with the condition of an ecology report being made? That seems like a very logical path forward if other members are inclined to agree with that. Thank you.
Councillor Cone.
Yeah, thank you. Just point of clarification, really. I'm just reading through the notes. I listened to the officer's presentation. The sound wasn't great, so I may have missed it. but I did follow it in the notes, the bulk of the presentation. Is there any question about the legality of any decision that we make if this ecology study is not done? Because it seems to be questioning, what is it, officers then sought advice as to the legal impact of requiring the undertaking of survey work, together with the details of any mitigation that may be required in respect, be submitted for approval before the buildings are demolished as a pre-commencement condition. So if we were to, at this meeting, approve this, would be in some way an illegal position to take because this ecology statement hasn't been done? Just a point of clarity, really.
Ms. Courtney, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know if Suki wants to come in. Obviously, she's much closer to this and was the one who pointed out the legality of this. I mean, it is, and I'm happy to hand over to her. I mean, previously, for many, many years, this was always dealt with by condition. We always added conditions about ecological assessments and did deal with this in that way. Things have changed. For the last few years, it certainly is something that we should be dealing with up front. I believe the Place Services, our consultants, did make that clear. We theoretically could deal with it by condition. I don't know if Suki may know a little bit more about the legal risks, but obviously there may be some risk to the council. What I would potentially suggest, instead of dealing with by condition, it may be, because as pointed out by Councillor, I think it was Councillor Kane, this is the only sticking point. I would probably suggest that a deferral and a request for that information would probably be a safer option for the council than simply approving and asking for it by condition, because then we've done our duty, we've had the information up front, you've used it to inform your decision, and then we could go from there. That would be my suggestion. I'm sorry, I'm just going to hand over in case Suki's got any information about the legal side. She may not.
That's correct. All I would say is that the concern is if a third party were to find protected species on the site prior to the discharge of a pre-commencement condition related to the ecology or protected species on the site, then they could take action against the council for not dealing with the issue prior to the decision being made. The legislation changed in 2017, which puts the presumption on the council to make sure that they're satisfied, or we're satisfied, that a protected species will not be harmed as a result of the development.
Thank you. Councillor Bassett.
Yeah, thank you. What I just heard is that an ecological survey has been submitted in this area on several occasions, and including one on a previous application for this. Also, as if you wanted to put it by condition, you could actually specify prior to demolition or any rebuilding work, this must be completed. So I don't see any problem or any risk to the council if it is done in that way.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Yes, I propose actually that we condition, have an ecological submission and knowing that we will not bring any risk to the council.
Councillor Kane.
To be slightly more specific, that we condition the preparation of a preliminary roost assessment to confirm the likelihood of bats being present, because that's what's being asked for.
Right, shall we put this to the vote then? So the officer's recommendation is to refuse this application. All those in favour, please show. All those against.
Unanimous.
Abstentions?
None.
So did we want to go with your...
So that is the proposal that we go with, approving with the standard conditions plus a condition specifying that the applicant is required to produce a preliminary roost assessment, a satisfactory preliminary roost assessment prior to commencement of demolition.
Okay, seconder for that. Thank you. Show of hands then, all those in favour of that?
Unanimous.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So that, yes, so that application is approved.
Sorry,
if it goes conditional.
sorry, Chairman, can I just come in briefly on that? Are members resolved to give delegated authority for the other conditions that we will require? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you. Exclusions of public and press.
None, Chairman.
Thank you. So that being the case, I close this meeting at 19:45. Thank you very much.